Welcome to another edition of the Cork Taylor Wine Podcast. I am here at a really special place. I will say that the French have given us many great things as Americans. They've given us French fries, the Statue of Liberty, and this fine gentleman.
Come on.
That's a pretty good opening, huh?
Yeah, don't put me on the same pedestal.
There you go.
It's all good.
Yeah, well, we're gonna judge. It's gonna be kind of like the judgment of France right here. Simone is the winemaker of Crown Point Vineyards in Happy Canyon.
In Santa Barbara, yeah.
In Santa Barbara. And we're here. So thanks for joining the Cork and Taylor Wine Podcast.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, so we're going to have some fun. We got some great wines in front of us. And you just took us on a gator tour. I think the reason why you took me on the gator tour is I think you love driving the gator.
I do. I like to drive all sorts of things, for sure.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about yourself. So born and raised in France?
Born and raised in France, yes. And then wine-wise, I'm kind of born and raised again everywhere.
And you've got a really good background.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm from Lyon, which is in the center of France, roughly.
The Jet de l'eau.
Exactly, and not far away from the Italian border. And growing up, we'd go to Italy with my family, spend a lot of time there. I love Italy. And when it came to studying wine, Torino in Italy was one of the closest school from home for me. So I crossed the border and I went there. I studied there for about 3.5 years. Had a lot of fun. You know, being a kid, being 19-year-old in Barolo is a blast.
Yep.
But after that, once I got my degree, I thought, for a French guy, it'd be quite weird to have an Italian degree. I'm like, they're not going to let me back in, right? So
they might not, actually. That's the truth, right?
I went to get my master's in Bordeaux to kind of get squared with that. Spent a few times and a few harvests in Bordeaux. Worked at Domaine de Chevalier, Château Pichon, Longueville, Baron. And then after that, I met some fun people there or during that time. And I asked their name, his name is Michel Roland.
Who's that?
Michel Roland.
I'm joking.
Right?
Yeah, who's that? Exactly.
Big wine blender, famous wine consultant, and world experience. So I asked him, hey, Michel, what should I do next? I want to travel. I want to do explore the world. And he pointed out towards California, said a lot of good things happening. He put me in touch with Geneviève Janssen at Robert Mondavi Winery. And that's how I kind of got my foot in the door into Napa Valley. And then I stopped. I went to Australia for a little bit. And I worked for Michel Roland down in Argentina because I absolutely wanted to go down there. And, I came back after all this. And spent quite a bit of more time in Napa, Harlan Estate, Maryville Vineyards.
Big names.
And I met another French guy. It's all the French connection at some point. Philippe Malka.
Never heard of him either.
Right. And
we're
another fun guy,
2,
by
yeah.
the way.
Oh, really?
And we were neighbors in St. Helena, and one thing leading to another. We worked together a little bit, and he told me about the project here at Crown Point a few years ago. He was really excited about it, so he got me excited about it. And I met Roger, the owner of Crown Point. As he would say, we kicked it off right. And I'm here. I've been here for a little less than a couple years, starting with Harvest 2019, and it's just been a blast ever since. So what else could you ask for? And such a cool vineyard, such a cool facility, state of the art, and it's just a blast.
And Roger's really spared no expense. I mean, he wants to make world class Bordeaux style wines, and I mean, he's obviously Michel Roland, Philippe Melka, yourself. I mean, that's a pretty darn good team right there.
I hope so. He really wanted to put this place on the map for great Cabernets in California and, maybe one day the world. But when Roger's got something in mind, he goes all in. And that was really his goal with this project, is make one of the greatest cabs that he could envision in here. So he planted the vineyard right with some incredible selection I was telling you about, coming from Bordeaux, coming from Napa, and doing the right thing, farming the land the right way, farming those vines the right way. Then in the cellar, having the best possible equipment we could dream of, trying to put a team of international experts such as Philippe, such as Michel, and he's really done it right, as you can see by, you can't really see a wine, I guess, but as you can taste by what's in the glass, I think the wine speaks for itself.
How much influence does Michel and Philippe have on a, I guess, maybe day-to-day basis with you?
A lot about regarding the philosophy, not necessarily as much the day-to-day, but I think it's going to pop. But it's great to work with them because I think the three of us, we really have a great time working together. It's a lot of fun, it's fun first. I've been working with Philippe for a while now, and I think we're pretty much in sync regarding the philosophy, where do we want to go with the wines, our approach in general. I do a lot of R&D with Philippe. That's mostly what we work on. Hey, with Philippe, what do you think about that idea? What do you think about that idea? He comes to me and he brings ideas too that we try, we experiment, we see what's going on. Because no one has made wine here before, everything we do, we have to figure it out if that's the right way to do it or how can we do it better. It's very different from Napa or from Bordeaux from that standpoint, that we have to find what works for this place and for those wines first. And then the relationship with Michel is just incredible. Putting wines together. You try 20 wines with him and he'll tell you, hey, put number 5, 7, 8, and 13 together. You're going to love it.
Do you ever wonder if he's just like throwing a dart against the wall, hoping it hits the bullseye, or no? He's just that good, obviously.
He's that good.
Yeah, I believe it.
I've got some stories about it. I was working on a blend one day, and I was working on it, and I couldn't find it. I couldn't find the right answer to it. You know what I mean? Like normally, it's pretty easy. You take the best wines, you put them together, and boom, 40 minutes later, you have your blend, and it's usually pretty much black or white. And one day, I'm doing that blending session. I'm trying all the wines, and I'm trying something, but I don't have the answers. It doesn't work. I end up spending the whole afternoon on it as well. So one full day of blending. I've got some blends, but I'm not stoked about them really. A week or two later, I send the wines to Michel, and we do it again, and I do it with him. He tries the wines, and then he stops. He takes 1 minute, and he's like, "All right, you're gonna do this." 20% of wine 2, 30% of wine 4. And I'm like, he's bluffing, right? So I try it. And guess what? That's the best wine that was on the table that day by far. By far. So I'm just amazed about that ability, to put flavors together, if you will, to put notes together. I think is in a league of his own, on that regard.
What would you say the best advice he's ever given you? I mean, it sounds like he's kind of your wine mentor, the guy that's...
I've got many. Philippe is as well. I'm obviously more in touch with Philippe.
Well, let me ask you this. What is the best advice someone's ever given you when it's come to making wine?
I think it's less is more. Right? Don't try to push things. Don't try to make it work at all costs. And respect, I think, the grace that the wines have, especially when it comes to Cabernet. Oftentimes you want to do too much. You want the wines to be bigger. You want the wines to be riper, this and that, to tell you the truth. But I think when you do that, you're also forgiving, or you lose the grace and the refinement that the wines have. And you lose the purpose. You want the wines to be drunk and enjoyed, right? You don't want the wines to be... It's not a bodybuilding competition. You want the wines to bring you emotions and pleasure. Not necessarily the biggest slap that you can think of. So working with Michel actually has been great from that standpoint, because he's always looking for that type of thing, for the refinement, for the drinkability as well, for wines that are kind of straighter from that standpoint. And Philippe brings that too a lot. Philippe has, I think, a very I was gonna say organic approach to wine, genuine approach to wine, which is great. Like we keep in mind when we're blending, when we're making those wines, that they're here to be enjoyed and have fun with them, right? And when you're having fun with what you do, I think it shows. I hope it shows into the bottle.
What is, I guess, the stamp? If someone says this is Simone as a winemaker, what is your mark?
Oh man, that's a tough question because it's always hard. For me, the hardest is to speak about myself as a winemaker. Hey, what's your style? I think I want to impress people when they buy Crown Point. I want to impress them. I want to wow them. I want to take you wrong-footed when you're opening that bottle. Because for me, the greatest emotions in wine are when you're surprised. If you open a bottle of Cabernet and it tastes exactly like Cabernet, it tastes exactly like those flavors, there's no surprise, there's no wow. And I think that's what we want to do here. We really want to make a great bottle of Cab and something that's really easy for you to understand why it's so good.
Mm-hmm. Let's try one of these. What are we going to try first?
So we make two wines here at Crown Point, or two main wines, which are the Estate Selection and the Cabernet Sauvignon. The Estate Selection is all estate fruit, and it's the reflection of what we have planted in the vineyard. So all 5 Bordeaux varietals. The blend is usually about 70% Cabernet Sauvignon, and then equal parts or breakdown of the other 4 Bordeaux varietals to complete the blend. The other wine, the other halo wine that we're making is the Cabernet Sauvignon, where we want to showcase what we think is the best varietal on property, and we want to showcase that at a much higher percentage inside the wine. So it's usually, high 90% of Cabernet Sauvignon. So you have the Estate Selection, which I would say you have the full-on estate personality into this wine, and then with the Cabernet Sauvignon you have what Crown Point is about, and that's Cabernet Sauvignon. What do you think?
Good. This hits you in the mouth in a good way.
So what I love with this wine is that it's a 2016, it's a young wine, but extremely lush, extremely delicate. Tannins are so small and so refined, so fine grain, that the drinkability on this, it's a big wine, right? There's some volume, there's some weight, but the drinkability is just amazing. Mm-hmm. With the Cabernet Sauvignon, you kind of gain a little bit in tannins. You're gaining length. You don't necessarily have that super velvety mid-palate, but you have more of the varietal expression, a longer wine, a more complex wine. And that's what I love with Cabernet Sauvignon, is that you've got all those flavors that you don't necessarily expect. The flowers, the spice, the leathery notes, the olive notes, the non-wine flavors. And to go back to your question, I love when in wine there's what I call non-wine flavors. It's just the greatest surprise.
Bubblegum.
Not really.
No.
Not the one I shoot for.
No, right. Would you say this is a wine that's consistent with this area? I mean, I'm tasting this wine. It's gorgeous, delicious, color, everything.
Thank you.
You wouldn't think, I mean, and this is not a slight on this area, okay? Because this is not really, Santa Barbara is always kind of known as Pinot Noir, Chardonnay.
Yeah.
I mean, this is kind of like, if people said, would people even know? Like, if you put this up against 6 other Napa wines, okay?
Oh, it's right there.
You wouldn't think this wasn't from, you would think this was from Napa.
Yeah.
And that's, I'm not, hopefully that you don't take that as an insult, but it's just,
No,
you wouldn't, knowing what I know about Santa Barbara, I just wouldn't picture this wine coming from here.
If you think about it, I'm wrapping my head around the same thing. Hey, how come? I think what you're trying to say is, how come this area is not better known for Cabernet?
Exactly.
And I've been asking myself the same question for 2 years now, ever since I'm here, and even more so. Maybe historical reasons. We're in a part of Santa Barbara that has not been planted for a while, or has not been the main focus for viticulture in the county, because this was a lot of thorough breeds are being raised here. A lot of horses are being raised in this area, so it was kind of known for horse ranching a little bit more. It's really rocky, a lot of hillsides, a little warmer, and the focus in Santa Barbara has been on other varietals, like I mentioned.
Right.
But since Roger came here and really invested into making a great cab, we did some R&D, we realized that the weather is just perfect. I mean, today it feels like you're in Tuscany, right? It's in the low 70s, it's beautiful.
If we were in Tuscany, you'd have food out here, right?
Well,
No, I'm just messing with you.
You gotta run, man.
I'm just messing with you.
I'm always down to have a bite.
No, I'm just messing with you.
But it's true. It's true that probably historical reasons, cultural reasons, whatever. If you look at Napa County or if you look at Sonoma County, you've got all sorts of varietals planted. Area for Cab, area for Pinot, area for Chard. Here, there's no reason why it shouldn't be like that too. We're at the end of the St. Ines Valley, a little bit like the end of Napa Valley. Calistoga is different from Carneros from the south.
Right.
Here, the east is different from the west. The west is much cooler. It's much more suited for Pinot and Chardonnay. And our area is really suited for Bordeaux varietals and Cabernet especially.
That's good.
Oh, thank you.
That's really good.
But we're trying to work on establishing this varietal here, the reputation of the varietal here. We're close to LA, close to Santa Barbara. We're trying to tell people of LA, hey, this is a good spot for Cab. Come and stop here. It's fun to think of Santa Barbara as LA's wine country too. So
I like that.
We're trying to put some focus.
That's
into
good sales and marketing.
Hopefully.
Yeah, maybe they'll get rid of you as a winemaker and they'll make you head of sales and marketing.
I'm happy as a winemaker.
No, I'm just messing with you.
As a winemaker, you got to have different hats, right?
Right.
You gotta be able to host people. You got to be able to travel, to talk about the
It's different,
wines.
right? Because, 15, 20, 25, 30 years ago, you didn't really have sales and marketing, right? It was more you're a winemaker and that's what you did. Now, it's like you've got to be just as good as you are as a winemaker. You have to be good in front of people and selling yourself and selling the wine at events, correct?
Absolutely. People want to meet the winemaker. They want to meet the maker, right? They want to chat. They want to have that relationship, and especially when you are asking for wines at a certain price point, you want to be able to offer that service, have that hospitality, have that personal relationships with customers, with buyers, and be able to host, kind of any type of wine tastings at their home or here, or once COVID stops, like be versatile, I think.
Right.
And it's just a fun stuff. Like, we have such a good product. You know what I mean? Like, product. I don't talk about our wine necessarily, but wine in general. It's just a great opportunity to chat, to relax, to see people in a casual way.
Right. Well, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back with them. All right, we're back with Simon. We're let's try number 2. And before we try number 2, I want to ask you a question. So, I want to ask the owner of Domaine de Chevalier. Okay, I've met him before, Olivier. Yeah, Olivier Bernard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very nice guy. I met him in Chicago. I said, "You are the only winery in Bordeaux that is not Chateau. It's Domaine." And I said, "Have you ever thought about changing it?" He's like, "No." And I thought that's pretty cool because you don't think of Domaine. It's always Chateau this, Chateau Petrus, Chateau that, Chateau Margaux, Chateau Aubryon. I mean, the list goes on. But I think he's the only winery in Bordeaux that's Domaine.
Yeah.
Good marketing, I guess.
I think there's history also behind it, and it's always fun or funny in Bordeaux. You've got chateaus that are pretty much barns, right? People have a barn, they call it a chateau for other historical reasons, because that's almost a synonym of domain there, or estate or winery, right? So they use the word chateau as we would use the word winery. But they're really good people, the Bernard family, and the wines, and I think everything they put together is is just a wonderful project.
Do you like their Blanc better or their Rouge?
It's tough. It's a tough question. They're all really good.
Well, they only make two wines. So
You're
what
right.
is it? What is it? The Rouge or the Blanc?
They're always good. I take the Rouge personally.
Yeah.
But the Blanc is phenomenal. It's just out absolutely outstanding. I'm more of a Bordeaux red than I'm a Bordeaux Blanc guy, so I'll just go with the red. Just personal choice. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah. Well, we just did. So, but it's funny because he has like there's a foresty texture to it, and there's a lot of he has forest that butts up on quite a bit of it. Correct.
Yeah. Just surrounding the property. Yeah. So we're planting actually a little bit of white wine here. We have a few acres of Sauvignon Blanc Peter Michael. We're going to plant
Peter Michael
nice. Clone, yes.
Yeah, that's nice.
And we're going to plant another 3/4 of an acre. And I want a white wine more than a Sauvignon Blanc. You know what I mean? I want to have other varietals in there. Also because people tend to think that Sauvignon Blanc cannot age, which is a total mistake. But I want to kind of hide behind the white wine etiquette and have label and have other varietals also in the mix to bring, I think, some addition to the Sauvignon Blanc. Mm-hmm. And I don't think those varietals will be Semillon necessarily, because our Sauvignon is very rich naturally, has a lot of texture, a lot of creaminess as is. So I want to find something lively in there to contribute to the Sauvignon Blanc and bring freshness and bring complexity. So we're looking for Mediterranean varietals that can add to this, and I got a few that we're really interested about, and we're gonna keep following these and kind of monitor and see what works for us here.
So kind of what's the process? Do you just plant a couple things? I mean, how do you figure it out?
Exactly. You plant a couple things, you follow that during ripening, you follow the acid, you follow the flavors, you look at the fruit, how the fruit is changing and turning during harvest, how is it reacting to some heat, for example, how's the acid evolving throughout the ripening period. And then you look at flavors too. You taste the flavors. You try to see which one is good and works well for a blend. So what makes the cut makes the cut. What doesn't.
Right. But I mean, this takes some time, correct?
It takes a few years. Yeah, for sure. Nice. Which is the fun part of working here. We're trying to build a legacy. We're trying to do things long term and not necessarily a one shot. And when I first came here, Roger told me, hey, if the Sauvignon Blanc doesn't work, if it's not good enough, we're not going to produce it. All right, we have the wine. We'll sell the wine, but we won't bottle it. We'll figure out something. And he's always been a big advocate of that. Mm-hmm. We put the best wines in the bottle. If it doesn't make the cut, we're not going to bottle.
Nice.
Not so many wineries do that, to be honest with you. Having that, what I call freedom, is definitely a big value.
Right. All right. So let's talk about this cab. 100%?
92% cab, touch of Merlot, touch of Petit Verdot, Cab Franc, and Malbec to complete. Very typical for me of what you find here in Happy Canyon on a cooler year. 2016, so we're having in 2016 Cabernet Sauvignon. 2016 is a cooler year. And usually with cooler years, you gain a lot of complexity. Hence, for me, the non-wine flavors you find into this. You find some beautiful savory herbs, a lot of savory notes, right? A lot of olives, a touch of fennel in there, beautiful roses, and the typical red fruit you find in Cabernet, a touch of plums, a touch of strawberries, a lot of cherries in the wine. It's just such a fun mix, very expressive. And what I love about this is the drinkability. I probably have had like 10 cases of this wine since I started, and I will always look forward to opening the next bottle. It just drinks so well. It's there's a lot of intensity in the wine, a lot of complexity, a lot of length, but it doesn't come at the cost of drinkability. Mm-hmm. And this with food is just amazing too.
Can you imagine this aging though?
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's delicious now, but can you imagine 5, 10, 20 years from now?
We're going to go even more towards non-wine's flavor, and it's going to get darker and darker in tone, right? You're going to get more mushroom stuff, more truffle notes in there, more leathery notes. And for me, the great Cabernets, and I think this already has a little bit of it, they have that old chimney note, you know, like when the chimney is cold, when you get that graphite notes into the wines, and that
Have you tasted a chimney?
Oh, yeah. If you've ever cleaned a chimney, you've tasted the chimney.
Yeah, I have. Unfortunately, I have.
But the good side of the chimney.
Well,
you know what I
obviously.
mean?
So
the cold chimney in the morning when you wake up the day after.
You're all right. Can you really? Does 1% of anything? You've got 1% of Malbec, or even 2% of Cabernet Franc Petit Verdot. Do you notice a huge difference with that little of a percentage?
No, but what happened in this case is we had a barrel of those wines put together for kind of a blend. What I like to do often is to do micro blends. You know, when you're trying the blends, you put them in a bottle, you try 750, but hey, what stops you from trying it in one barrel instead of taking a few millimeters on your bench trial? Why don't you do it in a barrel? And so that happened, and we figured out that this barrel was really helping the Cabernet blend in the end. And so that's what happened here. Kind of keeping track of all this too. When asked Roger, hey, do you want to keep track of all this and have it? He said, absolutely. So that's what ended up there. It's like that specific wine helped the blend. Simple as that.
That's delicious. Which is your favorite of the two wines?
You know, they're always like kids, right? And you always hear, you can't have a favorite. And
Simone,
whatnot.
you don't have kids. I got 3 of them. Yes, you can.
Exactly. So I was going to go there. Like most parents tell me that you actually do have one. So for me, it's, the one I want to open the most, because some days I want to open the estate selection. There's a time for everything. But for me, let's just say 7 times out of 10, I find myself opening the Cab Sauv.
Yeah. What attracted you to this place? Because I mean, you look at your
Have you seen it?
Well, yeah, I know. You took me on a gator tour, believe me, and I think you only drive the gator tour. You could care about the views. The views are awesome. I mean, you've worked at Harlan, you've worked at Maryvale, you've worked in Bordeaux, you've worked in, Argentina. What attracted you to this place? Because I mean, you probably had opportunities to go to a number of places. Why here?
The place itself, to tell you the truth, the place itself really attracted me on many different levels. The wines, when you have the wines, you just feel amazed by the potential. And as a winemaker, you want to make those type of wines, right? You want to make a great product. So the wines just amaze me. When you come here, you look at the place, it's just so beautiful. The views, the climate, the vines, there's everything you could dream to succeed. The winery, it's a state-of-the-art cellar. It's just amazing. Then you add on top of that the pioneer effect. Like, we are the first winery trying to do what we're doing here. And so having that R&D and trying to discover things for yourself, I just really enjoy. I love that.
I mean, did Philippe or Michel have to convince you, be like, you really got to go here? Or you're like, okay.
No. It's like Philippe told me, hey, that's going to be a great fit. I think it's a good fit for you. I think it's a good fit for Roger. Like, all right, cool. Then there's Roger. That fun character. He's just awesome to work with. He has so much drive and vision.
Be honest. He's probably not going to listen to this, so you can say whatever you want. I'm just kidding.
Well, he knows what I think.
Right.
He knows what I think, and I like to work with people I determine like that.
And he lets you. It sounds like really control the blends, control the whole process and everything.
Absolutely. On the wine side, it's do your thing. I think he understands. We're on the same page too. It's like stylistically we're on the same page, so he trusts me for that. If we're on stylistically in different areas, he might have something to say, but it goes beyond work. We're always here. He likes to ride horses. Me too. He likes to cook. Me too. So we end up cooking here after work. We have guests. We host guests together. We like to drink wine, so we end up spending a ton of time together. It goes above and beyond. And man, the place, Santa Barbara is such a cool town.
Yeah.
Being able to make wine 30 minutes away from such a cool town, surfing, like I mentioned
we talked
before.
about, you're a big surfer.
Being on the coast and being able to get to work, start your day early, and being in the water at 6 a.m. And by 8:30 you're here at the winery. It's just amazing. It's just, there's not that many
in the
places
water
in the
by
world.
6, out of the water by 2, at work by 2:45, back home at 4. I know how it works.
You know
for you
what I
winemakers.
meant. You can read
you guys,
between the lines.
exactly. You guys, I know you winemakers. They sound like you're working all the time. This is really, but both wines are just spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. What is the wine that kind of got you to get into wine? Was there any one wine that said, man?
That's a really good question. Yeah, absolutely. For me, that was an Hermitage from 1998, La Chapelle, from the Jaboulet family. So I grew up in Northern Rhone, and I've always been interested in wine.
Were your parents big wine people?
I wouldn't say big, but
they drank it. I mean, wine's part of the culture. I mean, let's be honest. In France, it's not maybe so much in the United States, but you go to Italy, France, Spain.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's there. It's there everywhere.
There's a good bottle somewhere on the table. So yeah. They were, not as much as me for sure. But growing up, there's always been wine around, and I got curious about wine, and you start drinking in family with your parents. That's how you get exposed to wine. You get drunk the first time with them after maybe one glass of Chardonnay. They make fun of you, right? That's part of the process. They make fun of you, like, what are you doing? What's going on? And then you realize that being buzzed is not cool. And so that kind of limits, right?
Thanks for the advice when as my kids get older.
I think so.
That's good. I like that.
You should have a little, trash talk on them.
Yeah.
And you realize all this, and then boom, you suddenly can. There's a context to it, and I think you get your education this way. And I was exposed to this wine one day, and my parents opened it, and I was like, oh my God, this is beautiful. That was back probably in 2002 when the wine was just released, and I thought I've always really enjoyed food and cooking, and I just needed to have the right palate for wine. I think your palate grows and get to that stage, and once it hit, man, oh boy, it hit.
Yeah.
Then that's all I could think of. Like, I need to make wine, I need to work in wine, and that's how I went to Italy and kind of followed this big passion. Yeah.
Did your parents kind of, I don't want to say hold you back, but they kind of promote that? I mean,
not really.
No.
My dad thought I was crazy because
he still might.
For sure.
Yeah.
But I was 19 years old at the time, and I maybe before that, maybe 18 and a half the first time I told my dad, I think I'm going to go to Italy to college and study wine. And he was like, this makes zero sense. But I went there, spent a few months there. I was really committed. It was cool. Had some good grades, and they saw I was really committed outside of school as well. And they told me, we're pretty proud that you find your way, because it seems that I did at the time. So I think that they're just really happy that I get to do something I enjoy.
Good. Awesome. Well, Simone, thanks for joining the Cork and Taylor Wine Podcast. We're going to stick around for a couple more minutes, and we're going to do a couple bonus sections, some bonus content for our listeners. Appreciate it. And thanks. It's awesome experience. So
thank you so much. It was a blast.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.